It's time to check in with Doc Rob and the Concierge for Better Living. We take a real, raw, inside look at healthier living while sharing great ideas and improvements for a better quality of life. The Concierge for Better Living will help informed, intrigued, and interested listeners like you make better choices for yourselves and your loved ones. CannabisRadio.com proudly presents The Concierge for Better Living with your host, Doc Rob.
Today, my guest is the famous Robert Scott Bell from Robert Scott Bell Radio, and I'm happy to have you. Robert, great to have you on my show versus the other way around.
Hey, Doc Rob, it's great to be here with you, and we're going to get the message of healing out to those who are ready to hear it, of course, and, of course, how to live better, live well, of course.
Yes, living well is a lifelong process, and learning how to do it takes a lot of effort, but we want to help those people out there and make it easier. And like I said, I'm really honored and grateful for having you as my guest. And you've been rocking the airwaves and promoting health and health freedom for so many years. And I just think that it's great for those people to get to know you, that we are here on Cannabis Radio and really just kind of bringing health and plant-based medicine and getting through filtering all the mess that's out there and health and wellness. So, so we just came back from Anaheim. No, not Anaheim, I'm sorry. That's coming up. I'm already jumping ahead. We already came back from Orlando at one show and then bounced over to Vegas to another show. I'm sure you're happy to get a break in the holidays coming up.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think the cool thing about what we do when we get to go out to these medical and health food type shows is that we get to educate folks on different ways or innovative ways to heal, utilizing the laws of nature, as they stand, because we've abandoned it. And that's a big reason why in the West so many people are chronically ill. And to reintroduce simple concepts that your medicine comes from your food and your food is your medicine. It's not like it's a new concept, but seemingly in our culture, in our age at this point, it's a rediscovery process for so many.
Exactly. I've educated over a decade ago on probiotics. We talked about enzymes and coconut oil and green foods and alkalizing, all these great topics that are becoming a little bit more, mainstream now. We've kind of helped to open up those doors, and now we're kind of both joining in this effort to reintroduce not a new substance, but hemp and cannabis and, of course, cannabidiol. And I know you've seen a lot of that interest around the last year plus. And what's your take on how's that industry evolving right now?
Well, it's a reemergence of another form of a botanical, I'd say, medicine. Of course, in the United States, these things are regulated as dietary supplements. So manufacturers and sellers of these kinds of products can't come out and tell you all the things that I could tell you, because I'm not personally involved in selling anything, and that's why I love pushing the First Amendment for all it's worth in relating these things. But the use of a plant that has been maligned during the 20th century, unfairly so, to keep people away from it, with the theory or an actuality of one small use of the plant. Out of the 25,001 uses, only one is to smoke it to get high for those that want to use it recreationally. What about the 25,000 other uses? Does that matter at all? Well, it matters to more and more people because they're finding out from a nutritional perspective, from an environmental perspective, from a textile perspective, from an energy or fuel perspective, from a medicinal perspective. There are so many uses for this plant and the many variations of these plants and the benefits of the cannabinoids that they deliver. Particularly, most people know of the THC, which is considered more of the psychoactive side of things, and the CBD, the cannabidiol, which is considered more or less non-psychoactive, but yet having profound properties in relieving anxiety, promoting a good sense of well-being, and in a more medicinal perspective, addressing children who have seizure disorders who are not responding to any medications or drugs, perhaps even the soldiers to address the PTSD after coming back from the war theater, as well as evidence of protection, neuroprotection for brain and nervous system due to injury or other assaults or insults, may have profound impact on the gastrointestinal system, which I believe is very related to a lot of the seizure activity. and and then we can get into cancer too. So there's a lot of things that are very controversial for some out there, but desperately needed for those millions, in fact, that are rediscovering these benefits.
Yeah, and I know we just jumped into right into cannabis because this is Cannabis Radio, but I think as much as we're learning more about and relearning about cannabis and hemp and the cannabinoids, and people sit there and focus on one negative when there's thousands of positives. And I think that's part of our culture. You look at the news, and it's negative news. There's not really positive information being shared. It's only the negative and fearful based stuff. I know you've been kind of trying to help people break through that. Don't be sold on the fear, and just looking for look for the positive in all these things. I mean, as I joked around in talks that we had this past weekend, it was, well, does that mean if grapefruit eaten at the wrong time with the wrong medicine could kill you, does that mean that all grapefruit should be banned? Wait, let's not stop there. Let's ban all citrus. It goes kind of way, way beyond. And I'm seeing that as a great way to have cannabis not only helping us right now in its own right, but it hopefully will open the conversation to other plant benefits and other phytonutrients and other medicines from nature versus the synthesized stuff.
Well, I agree. I think that the focal point, for instance, you bring up the point of a food, for instance, causing problems, not in and of itself, but in conjunction with the medicines or the drugs. And I would rather look at the drugs as the dangerous element, not the natural substance like a grapefruit. But I recognize some things can contraindicate. But the reality is when we work with these botanical medicines or supplements, whatever they may be, the risk is not so much those things in and of themselves, but the lack of understanding as to how they're working with the body as opposed to forcing the body to stop or start something in a very imbalanced and then toxic way, because we have the ability to metabolize plant-based substances, as we've done for as long as there's been humans and animals and plants on the planet, versus these synthetic pharmaceuticals that are patent medicines emerging out of the petrochemical industry in the 20th century that have created, for every one disease they claim to treat or cure or relieve, they create 10 to 15 or even 20 others that they end up selling more medicine for. So it's been a dangerous spiral, and I think the awareness here for those listening here on Cannabis Radio have recognized to a large degree that they'd rather not do those medicines if they can avoid it, and that's what we're here to support them, to make those decisions in an informed way.
Exactly, and that's kind of why for those, this is the first episode of Concierge for Better Living, and those that don't know me as well as you do, of course, I'm a naturopathic doctor, a natural gourmet food chef, a background in anthropology and traditional cultures and diets, food as medicine, let their natural heal us, let our bodies heal itself, and I think that that's a real big kind of theme going to be in this show. Is we're here to help, not here to force anything down your throat. We're here to educate and inspire. And I know you too. The same thing with homeopathy. That's your background, right? So a little bit goes a long way. And I think that's one of the other things I want to emphasize to people, that we've been kind of taught that this is like more is better always. And sometimes, it's that subtle shift that makes a big difference. And we can do that even through education. Yeah,
well, exactly. And, in homeopathic medicine, as you mentioned, we really honor the principle of first do no harm. And I think those in holistic medicine or those who are in allopathic medicine who are making a shift recognize that they want to do little or no harm at all for their patient population, for their clients, customers, so that they can genuinely bring about relief for healing, in fact, and in fact do not add to the burden of the body. And so everything, when you talk about concierge type healing, if you will, and that term has been now become popularized in concierge medicine, the idea that people can actually interact with a healer, doctor of any kind, and get up front to know what the services are and what they may cost. It's an interesting thing, but it's really bringing the power to heal back to the people, or at least the power to make informed decisions about where they want to go with their healing.
And that's what we're about here, conscious consumerism, making the best choice for you as an individual, for your family, for your loved ones. Let's take a break. We're here with Robert Scott Bell, Concierge for Better Living. We'll be right back after this brief message.
The Concierge for Better Living will continue in a moment.
InternetMarketingNinjas.com is the online dojo of the highly trained and skilled Internet Marketing Ninjas. Disavow documents, reconsideration requests, panda and paywin penalties. Let our superior SEO ninjas confront all of your link-related issues. The Internet Marketing Ninjas are equipped to master any marketing exercise, content creation, authorship, link building, PPC, and more. Plus, build more buzz for your brand with our social media marketing strategy. Discover all that the Internet Marketing Ninjas can do for you. Visit the online dojo now at InternetMarketingNinjas.com.
Growing green to generate more green.
Hello to all you happy herbalizers, smiling trippy hippies, and everyone who believes in freedom and tolerance. This is The Grow Show, and I'm Kyle Cushman.
From food to fuel, from remedy to resource.
Welcome my guest, Ed Rosenthal, the guru of ganja. Let me ask you, right now I hear your lighter clicking. Are you smoking indoor or are you smoking sun-grown?
What am I smoking? I'm smoking concentrate.
Way to get out of the answer there. So you're truly like the king, right? You just clap your hands and somebody brings you a bowl and you're all set, right?
I wish that were the case.
The Grow Show with Kyle Cushman, only on CannabisRadio.com.
Cannabis Confidential with Dr. Dina. Candid.
I want to give you the inside story.
Captivating.
I want to introduce you to my kind and amazingly talented friends.
Compelling.
We get to meet some of the most amazing cannabis activists and warriors around.
Listen in as medical marijuana pioneer Dr. Dina shares never-before-heard stories, chats with cannabis insiders and celebrity friends, and provides invaluable perspective and insight into one of the fastest-growing industries in the world.
I want to share with you what was once confidential information. Let's expose the truth, discuss the issues, and learn the facts.
Cannabis Confidential, only on CannabisRadio.com.
Let's check back in with Doc Rob and the Concierge for Better Living, only on CannabisRadio.com.
And we're back. This is Doc Rob, Dr. Rob Streisfeld, Concierge for Better Living, here with my guest today, Robert Scott Bell. Robert Scott Bell radio show, natural news, healing, helping, educating, rocking that airwaves with all the good information. And again, Robert, I'm so glad that you're here. It was really just like a no-brainer when I said, who would I like to be my first guest on this show? You know, I was like, well, the man that I've been on the show and who's been kind of like a role model of sorts, getting that message out there, and I applaud, of course, what you've done. Robert, I know you've been a guy that uses your voice, but you've used some words as well and written a book. And tell me a little bit about, tell our listeners, I know about it, this book, Unlock the Power to Heal. What would the reader expect from this book? And of course, I know it's full of great information, but what gets you excited about having this book out in the market?
Well, yeah, Unlock the Power to Heal, co-authored by my good friend and yours, Ty Bollinger, who's written Cancer Step Outside the Box. We got together to put a very practical, right-to-the-point message of a lot of things that would really give insight in a simple way, even to doctors, to things to get well, very comprehensive. So we covered not only the history of modern medicine in a way that nobody talks about, so they understand how we got into the mess we're in as a culture here in the West, but also how then to unravel that and then take that power and unlock it so that you have full access to it. So we talk about vitamins, minerals, trace minerals, enzymes, fats, all of the things that the government and the government-sponsored reports tend to be 20, 30 years behind. They catch up one day and they say, oh, wait, maybe fat is good for you, after they had been telling us for the decade of the 20th century that fat would kill us. Of course, we talk about the quality of fat, and you know that also well, Doc Rob, as well. And then we get into some very interesting things about the healing of the gut, which was my purpose, really, of everything that we did in that book. The most important thing for me was to restore integrity to the epithelial lining of the gut that had been damaged by so much modern medical interventions, from vaccines to antibiotics to additives, preservatives, flavorings, colorings, pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, plastifiers, GMOs, and heavy metals. So it's a mess down there, and I wanted to bring out a system that people could tap into easily to recover. So for me, that's the most important, although there's a lot of good things as well about first aid and even a chapter on cannabis/hemp And that was an important add-on before we published because this was coming out so fast about a year ago.
Yeah, I think that's great. As a naturopathic doctor, our tenets is always go through the gut, heal the gut first, and everything else has a chance to recover. And that's kind of where my background in probiotics and enzymes and diet. Everyone made fun of me when I went to culinary school after I became a doctor. And I said, but listen, everybody eats, so we can't address that as a first, foundational starting point. And like I said, your book is a foundational, introduction to a lot of these issues. And I think it's important that, in a digestible, pun intended, manner that we can get this out there. And, one of the things that we know we travel a lot of shows and you're on the radio and you have a lot of interaction with an audience. And are you seeing, as I am, this younger age, this younger audience become more interested and inspired to be healthier, to make better choices now? I mean, for many years, I'm still a young guy, but all the marketing guys in these companies are telling me, oh, those young kids, they think they're invincible. They don't care. They won't buy it. They don't listen. They just want to party. And have you seen any of this kind of culture shift as I have, with younger people actually taking a lot of attention to this stuff?
Yeah, I have. I started my healing journey when I was 24, having been raised pharmaceutically and addressed everything with drugs, my life being in a pharmaceutical family. So at 24, not a lot of my peers were interested in the path I was taking, moving toward organic food, detoxifying my liver, probiotics, fermented foods, vegetarian foods, things like that. It was a shift. And even now, some of them are still reluctant, although, 24 plus years later, they're all figuring out, wait a second, whatever he was doing is working. Maybe we should listen now. But you're right. I've been most shocked about my audience shifting demographically younger and younger. We'll have teenagers, 20-somethings listening. And, of course, why would they listen to a health show? As you say, they think they're invincible. But there's a large swath of them that are very aware of the environmental concerns that we share and are looking to say, how can we make a change? How can we make a difference? And they actually understand that they can't eat the same way as their parents ate and make a difference. And they're also suffering more than we did because the vaccine schedule was greatly expanded in 1991. And since then, we've seen an explosion of autism and neurological issues as well. So many of them are having to make this decision much earlier in life, having been proven less invincible than generations prior.
Definitely. I think most of us healers got in early because we were sick ourselves. That was my case. I had digestive issues and, other imbalances. But I was just reading an article that came out how this health movement is damaging the nightclub and electronic music culture right now, because less and less young kids want to use all these synthetic drugs and do alcohol and drink and party all night long. They love the music, but they don't want to give up their health for it. They still want to go to yoga the next day. And I think that is pretty impressive. And I'm excited to see that shift. And that's kind of one of the things I'm hoping to be, is kind of that concierge to that younger demographic. Let them know it's cool to be health conscious. It's hip. Be a health inspired person. That's kind of my motif. And it used to be, if you were doing the healthy stuff and eating organic, you were the weird, hippie wannabe kind of personality. And now, if you're the one still doing fast food and not looking at your health, you're kind of becoming the outsider, because what rock are you hiding under that you're not seeing the reality that we have the responsibility, and it's in our own power to make good choices for ourselves and for our families. And I think I always laugh because we used to throw a party in Chicago on health and lifestyle, organics, and we still get 200 young professionals in on Thursday night. That was about 5 years ago. I bet you that place, I'd probably double or triple that now in just a few short years. So it's a great phenomenon, and I think one of the reasons why I wanted to do this show and do it on podcasting and digital radio, as you can reach a lot of people and they share it, and if it's good information, which is what I really hope to bring here through Concierge for Better Living, then people will continue to come back, and we can make this as a community a great resource, just like your show and just like many others out there trying to spread the good word of health and healthy living. But balance is everything, So believe me, they can come find me. I'm out dancing, clubbing, going to restaurants. I'm not trying to live in a bubble. And, I think that people need to understand that you can find this moderation, this balanced position, and still notice the difference and still be healthier.
Right.
So,
yeah. Well, listen, we have shared a meal at Richard Thomas's restaurant in Atlanta, for instance, R. Thomas.
Right.
And, a lot of organic options, and you see a lot of young families with kids coming out, and that's been for years. So we've seen a trend. There's definitely a trend. And, if you think about the hemp and cannabis culture, it is an environmentally aware culture. And I think to some degree they've learned that they can't just, do that kind of culture and lifestyle and then go to a drive-through that feeds them antibiotic-laden meat products.
Right.
So the transformation is on, and that's a good thing. Then these big bad corporations will have to respond to their dwindling customer base and change if they're going to survive, or else others will take their place to fill the niche of good quality food in that regard. And that's why, it's so cool that you went into food and culinary type schooling, because you could also make that bridge that your food is your medicine and your medicine is your food, and that's for real.
Yeah, I mean, it's noticeable. And I love that you mentioned Art Thomas. It is one of my favorite restaurants in the country. I stop there in Atlanta every time I can. 24/7 makes it very convenient to do so. I think that food is your medicine. I think there's been reports recently on the dwindling sales on the big arches, the big golden arches. And
Right.
I just don't know why. And well, because people are waking up to the reality that they don't want pink slime and not real food. And I think that's going to be a major theme here, that not only is cannabis, potentially a new or for some people continues to be a healing tool, but if you have the power to put the things in your mouth at your own discretion, you have the power to heal, just like your book describes. So we're going to take another quick break here. This is Robert Scott Bell with me, Doc Rob, on Concierge for Better Living.
The Concierge for Better Living will continue in a moment.
Your connection to quality cannabis insurance services is spelled Kaercher. That's Karcher Insurance. We have worked with ventures like Cannabis for over 60 years. We're proud to represent over 50 companies with tailor-made cannabis plans for owners just like you to insure your product, your plants, and your pursuits. Kaercher spells out their full-service insurance services ranging from commercial to bonds to personal, from life to health, and more. Contact the team at CarcherInsurance.com and let our experience work for you. That's Kaercher Insurance.com.
Contact Karen and the team at Karcher Insurance at 1-844-421-3560. That's 844-421-3560. The smoke is rising, and the next crop of podcasts devoted to cannabis providers and enthusiasts are ready to be harvested. Welcome to the Cannabis Radio Network, founded by respected rainmakers who have been producing award-winning podcasts for over a decade. Industry headlines, business updates, medical reports, marketing, and e-commerce education rolled up perfectly for your consumption. Let's grow together. The Cannabis Radio Network. CannabisRadio.com. Chronicling the latest cannabis industry news and headlines.
Well, with 4 states with tax and regulate and the District of Columbia.
The state of cannabis.
Oh my God, it's refreshing. We have people that generally wouldn't speak on behalf of cannabis for fear of retribution, fear of losing your practices, fear of many of those things, and find ourselves in a place that we finally can.
Bringing you fact-based news and views and keeping listeners on the pulse of what's happening in the industry today. The state of cannabis. On demand anytime, only on CannabisRadio.com.
Let's check back in with Doc Rob and the Concierge for Better Living, only on CannabisRadio.com.
And we're back with Concierge for Better Living. This is Doc Rob, your concierge at the moment, here with my friend and special guest, Robert Scott Bell from Robert Scott Bell Radio Show.
Good to be with you, Doc Rob. And again, congratulations on the launch here. Honored to be inaugurating with you to get this good concierge going for all the folks listening.
Yeah, I'm excited. I've been wanting to do this for a while, but I felt like it's all about timing. You can't force it, and this just felt right. And I've been really active in the cannabis space as an educator over the last year, 2 years, and I just feel like this is a great way to introduce not only the benefits of cannabis, but also benefits of just healthy living as a whole. I think there's really no distinction here when people start to realize, where cannabis can just be one piece of the puzzle, not the end game.
Mm-hmm.
I've had some people. It's funny. People try to demonize just THC. Just talk about cannabis for 1 second.
Sure.
And they say anything that's a stimulant or anything that affects the body, isn't good. And I'm like, really? And this is after your second cup of coffee today, or
right.
or how about you had a rough day at work, but you'll go to happy hour on a regular basis with your coworkers. So I just kind of like people. I said, did I say, what about THCA? Do you know about THCA? And I know that you've done a lot with enzymes and raw foods and experimented with other things like that. Do you know much about THCA versus THC?
No, I haven't done a show extensively on it in a while, and this is something that is very exciting to me as we differentiate between the forms of the cannabinoids available. We've written some on it. It was preliminary, and we're updating it for the new year because so much information is flooding on out as it has been suppressed for, again, much of the latter half of the 20th century. So it's very exciting.
Yeah, and I love to just bring that up because there's now, as I said before earlier about grapefruit, now they're talking about psychedelic mushrooms being used for mental health situations and psychosis. And I said, well, if a couple of mushrooms have psychedelic properties, it doesn't make all the mushrooms bad. And if there's a time and a place and appropriate use of it, it's got to be, nature provided. There's not just some complete randomness to it. And, so I would hate for them to take away reishi and shiitake and even portobello mushrooms, because a couple that are out there naturally have some other properties that we don't like.
Right.
And then I talk about, well, do you know if you juice? I had a pleasure meeting Dr. William Courtney, and I'm hoping to have him as a guest one of these days soon about the juicing of raw cannabis. And everyone's talking about juicing kale and juicing your greens and juicing everything. And I said, I can't wait till we can juice our cannabis across, everywhere we go in the breakfast. So versus a wheatgrass shot, how about a cannabis shot?
Yes.
Like, won't people get high? I'm like, actually, no. When THC is in its raw form, THCA, it doesn't get you high. And I think that's something that I wanted just to get out there, that there's a lot to learn, not only about healthy living, but about cannabis as well, that even the experts in the fields feel they're just scratching the surface. So,
well, no, it's a very good point. I mean, this is such an important distinction to make that when you look at that plant, and I mentioned 25,001 uses, that's probably not all of them. There are also different forms and different levels, and they're going to be studying, and much study has been done, but it's exponentially increasing. And to juice raw cannabis, even if it was high in THC content, will not make you high. That's a very important point. It becomes a food, really a food, that is ingested through the normal means, through the mouth, through the alimentary canal, the digestive tract. And the way it interacts is quite different and quite beneficial as well, just like you talk about juicing a superfood, juicing a green. And I think that we have yet to really delve deep into where we're going to go and understand how beneficial it can be as a daily dietary addition, as those of you who already are into juicing will be able to eventually, when the government steps out of the way of criminalizing this plant, will be benefiting in so many ways that will not inhibit your ability to interact out in the world or operate machinery in any way. It takes that controversy right out of it.
Exactly. I love it. I think everyday use is really going to be the future. As you know, the hemp oil, the CBD from hemp oil, I believe in low dose should be an everyday nutrient that you add to your lifestyle, as important as omega-3s or vitamin D. And I want to give a quick shout out to sponsors Hemp Meds. I know you and I both, get supported by Hemp Meds, and they're the ones that are breaking open this category. They're also the ones with the bullseyes on their back, but they're constantly trying to improve the quality of the product, of the category, and of course promote things through education, let people understand what's going on in the market, going on with their health. And again, I just give a quick shout out to Hemp Meds for their support going forward. And speaking of that, we're going to have a lot of future episodes coming out, so the listeners can tune in to all future episodes on demand at CannabisRadio.com. or you can subscribe to or you can subscribe to the show from iTunes, if you ever heard of that, Stitcher, and very soon on iHeartRadio. And so, again, I'm very excited for this to be the first of many great ways to connect with people. I'm looking forward to have a lot of interactions, some tweets, some Facebook page shares, some questions and comments. I'm your concierge, here to help you, not just tell you what to do, but here to work it out together. As you are a resource of information, Robert, please share with the audience where they can find your book and find more about you as well before we shut down this wonderful first episode.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate that, Rob. The Robert Scott Bell Show, heard 6 days a week, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 live on Natural News Radio and our syndicator GCN, as well as Stitcher, iTunes, Epic Times. Our good friend Jerry Doyle also carries it, UK Health Radio, and a number of other outlets as well. And RobertScottBell.com is the cornerstone where you can sign up for free email alerts as well and find everything there. And Sundays 1 to 3 in the afternoon Eastern Time as well. The book, UnlockThePowerToHeal.com, or you can link through at my page at RobertScottBell.com to pick it up online through Amazon or Barnes & Noble as well. But Doc Rob, a great endeavor here, getting the word out. As you said, concierging. I like that, helping folks out. That's what it is. You don't do it for them, but you're facilitating some great information getting out to the people, and it's desperately needed. So I appreciate all that you do. It's always good to connect.
Great to connect with you, too. If those listeners want to connect with me directly as well, there's DocRob.com. They can find me on Facebook with my personal page or my fan page, Doc Rob fan page. Twitter, it's Doc Rob, DocRob. Here to help you at Concierge for Better Living. This has been a lot of fun. RSB, the man, thank you so much. All the listeners, stay tuned. There's a lot more coming. And come on, feed me. I want to feed you with information. Feed me with your questions. Let's keep this ball rolling. Thanks so much again. I'm out. All the best in health and happiness.
The opinions expressed on this Cannabis Radio Network program are those of the guests and hosts, and do not necessarily reflect those of the staff or management of Cannabis Radio Network. Any rebroadcast or retransmission without proper consent of the Cannabis Radio Network is prohibited.